It was shortly before noon on Sunday, April 16th, 1989, outside Tyler, Texas. Stacy Henderson and her 6-year-old friend Joshua Oliver had walked down the road to return a video game to a neighbor. They were just a few hundred yards from Stacy's house when the unthinkable happened.
I'm scared it might happen to me, so I just started running back, because if I didn't start walking, he might have got out of the car and grabbed me too. I ran to Dee's house.
He was out of breath, and we weren't really understanding what he was saying. And then for some reason it just hit me that Stacy had been kidnapped.
Mama! How do you know? Where?
After he got his breath back, he was able to tell us it was a white man with brown bushy hair, and it was a big brown car. It was bigger than his mother's.
Immediately, Dee Mullins went to look for her 7-year-old sister, Stacy, while their adoptive mother, Velma Henderson, went to call for help.
911, what is your emergency, please?
Dispatcher Tammy Macklin took the call.
Okay, what is your name?
The first call I got was from Mrs. Henderson. She couldn't give me very many details because there was a 5-year-old with her daughter when she was kidnapped, and he was the one they were getting their information from. It was real sketchy.
A white male?
I was scared to death if they waited, he would be so gone we couldn't get him. I wanted to give her more information, but I simply didn't have it.
Time makes all the difference in the world on a call like this.
Miss Henderson, I'll have a deputy out.
After I got all the information from Mrs. Henderson, I keyed up on the mic and told Deputy Dunklin to 1063 reference kidnapping in progress.
642. Well, I was working section of that county on that Sunday morning, 15 to 20 miles away from the location where Stacy was kidnapped at.
Deputy Stephen Dunklin headed to the scene.
Several years back, we had a girl get kidnapped out of a church, and they found her dead later on. If we could just gotten her back, Stacy, maybe not be able to catch the suspect, I felt like we've been doing all right. It's not very often that you find a kidnapped victim still alive.
Dee went to the Alsh's house, where Stacy had been headed, to see if she was there.
I was hoping that it was just all a bad joke and, she was down there. And I asked her, I said, is Stacy here? And she said, no. And I said, oh, my God, somebody's grabbed her. I think that's whenever I panicked. Oh, God, this is real. This isn't a joke. Some nutcase has got her, and it's my baby sister.
Jack and Lois Alsh immediately went to see if they could help.
The entire family jumped into our car, and we went roaring out of the driveway back towards the Hendersons' house, knowing that someone had Stacy, but not knowing who it was.
We don't know any direction of travel that the suspect may have taken Stacy in. There's nothing but back roads in that part of the county. Nothing but back roads, dirt roads, blacktop roads. He could have turned left instead of right.
It's a big county.
Smith County All Units 1063 reference possible kidnapping.
That's why when something like this happens, we pick up the phone and we notify all the agencies we can.
Deputy Bobby McGee responded.
Myself and Deputy Brewer were assisting another officer serving a civil paper when the call came in to Deputy Dunklin to proceed on a kidnapping charge. So myself and Alvina Brewer went ahead and proceeded out.
Okay, Josh, I know you're real scared.
While Jack carefully questioned Joshua, Lois relayed the information they were gathering to Dispatcher Macklin.
And he described how the car had come by them down the road, turned around at the intersection, and come back.
Could you come over here a second? Ain't going for a little while. It's pretty dead.
Asking him for a whole lot of information didn't give us very good results, so we asked him for a little bit of information at a time.
Jack then went to gather neighbors for a search party.
I knew that if they didn't get her quickly, that they wouldn't get her, that they wouldn't find her, not alive. So I started calling neighbors. I just got the phone book. I called one by one every neighbor I could think of and told them briefly what happened and asked them to please get in their vehicles and just hit the roads because we didn't know which way they went.
Stacy's been kidnapped.
As I went house to house and as my wife called other people in the area and alerted them, there were probably as many as 40 or 50 people out on the road.
And all of a sudden there was a lot of traffic around the Hendersons. Some would drive around for a while and then they would come back to see if anything had happened.
They just seemed like they materialized out of the trees. We couldn't imagine how they had all learned about it so quickly. We were certainly glad they were there and willing to help.
Josh's mother, Lisa Oliver, comforted her friend Dee.
We talked a lot. You know, we was walking down the road and everything. We were talking, and we were trying to convince each other that, you know, she was going to be okay.
There's just so many things running through my mind. Where is she? Is she okay? Has he killed her? You know, has he molested her in some way? And everybody always thinks, well, something like this doesn't happen to your family. I got news for them. It does. It happens. And it can happen to anybody, no matter where they live, whether it's in the middle of the city or the sticks. It can happen.
It had been only minutes since Dee had last seen her 7-year-old sister, Stacy, and even less time since Stacy's 6-year-old friend Joshua saw her kidnapped. But everyone knew if they didn't find the little girl soon, they might never see her again.
It took us about 15 minutes to get to the location where she was kidnapped at. First thing I asked was who saw the incident.
Josh, you said your name is Josh? Josh, come on back to the back of my car. I need to talk to you just a second.
Joshua said that he had never seen a man before. He had never seen a car before.
Was it a brown four-door? Hey, what was he wearing, Josh?
A blue shirt.
Okay.
Said the man had black hair, blue shirt, blue pants. While I talked to him, he never cried. His voice never wavered or quivered. Smart little man.
Okay, do you have a beard, mustache, anything?
Brown
hair? With a mustache? Okay.
He had hair on his face like he hadn't shaved for a few days.
Okay.
His hands and fingernails were dirty.
Real dirty, like dirt and grease? Okay. Okay. Let me go put that on the radio. Josh, you did real good, okay?
Josh was very clear in what he had told us about what the suspect was wearing, which enabled us to intensify our search more.
642.
I can't really say I was really surprised, but I'm proud of him. I'm very proud of him. He wanted to know if everybody was going to get Stacy back. He was scared to death the man was going to hurt her or kill her.
It's like somebody reaches in, you know, pops your chest open and grabs your heart and just yanks it out.
Smith County All Units 1063 reference additional information.
Suspect is a white male, approximately 6 foot, dark brown hair, will have a mustache and some facial hair. Suspect will have dirty hands, should be wearing a blue shirt and blue jeans, driving a large brown car.
Following proper police procedure, deputies Brewer and McGee set up a stakeout at a key intersection.
We had decided to stop every brown car that came through.
Okay, we got a brown vehicle coming. I guess we'll start. Yeah, we'll stop it out there.
As soon as we pulled in behind him, we noticed him accelerate. He was coming up on a stop sign. We turned on red lights and sirens in an attempt to stop him. He accelerated more.
Brown sedan headed 31 east.
He went about 0.2 of a mile and he turned again at a very high rate of speed, and so he was making a triangle.
641 Smith County will be headed south on 211. We got it.
He missed the turn, and we could see him headed toward the ditch, and he couldn't go anywhere else. He was stuck there.
Get out of the car! Hey, get out of the car now!
Since we're so far out, there's a lot of static in it. All I could get on my radio was that she had the car pulled over.
Miss Anderson, they've located the car.
Dee and her friend followed the deputy sheriffs to the scene.
Me and Dee, we kept telling each other, you know, she's all right. You know, they got her, but we were real scared to death.
I did not see Stacy anywhere near the car. The first thing crossed my mind was that Stacy was dead or hurt. I walked up and asked Deputy McGee, where was Stacy? Deputy McGee told me she was in the patrol car, and Deputy McGee's patrol car. And I went over there and asked Stacy if she was all right. I picked her in my arms and held her. We're not supposed to let our emotions come in contact with our work, but in a situation like that, it's hard to do, especially with young kids. You just can't do it. I recognized the suspect. He had lived in our neighborhood for several years. I have a girl that's back then was 6 years old, and knowing that this suspect lived in the same neighborhood as my family, it really got to me. Because it could have been my girl that was kidnapped. It was hard. It was really hard.
I was so happy just to see her, and I was wanting to hold her and know she was okay and know that I would have her, you know, for hopefully many more years.
Deputies found a knife on the suspect and duct tape in a club in the brown sedan. The driver was convicted of aggravated kidnapping and sentenced to life in prison. Stacy returned home to her family.
Everybody's running up to me like, Stacy, are you okay? And what did that man do to you and all that?
And Josh wanted to see her. And Josh walked over there and said, hi, Stacy. You know, you could just see, you know, the relief on his face. And he told me, he said, Mom, I want to go home now.
I felt real glad because she was my friend.
Nearly a year later, Stacy's life is slowly returning to normal.
Well, she's a bit nervous. She doesn't sleep as well. She still wants to sleep with me all the time. She doesn't like to go to play with anybody. She wants them to come to the house. Doesn't like to talk about the kidnapping. Still upsets her, but she's loosening up a whole lot.
Josh is a hero to me because he ran back to my parents and told my parents so the police could arrest this man.
Josh had enough presence of mind to get the description of the suspect and get it down to almost perfect. He's what saved Stacy.
It wasn't even a quarter mile from our house, you know, she was just barely out of sight from us. The one thing that my family learned, you have to watch them because you never know what's going to happen. And you're the one that's put on this earth to protect them. You know, if you're not there, who's going to be?